Hi there, I'm Eric Doggett, and this is Photog TV, hosted by myself and Dustin Meyer. Episode 5 for Thursday, October 27th, 2011, Baby and the Tramp. We talk a little bit about the lighting and Photoshop work I put into one of my favorite images, plus a new way to mount hot shoe flashes and an alternative to Photoshop.
Hey everybody, welcome to our latest episode of Photog TV. Today we're doing Baby and the Tramp. Eric Doggett is going to give us a breakdown of his famous photo of kids bouncing on a trampoline, and he's going to give us a walkthrough of how he accomplished that image. But starting, we always start with a few minutes of news, and so Eric, you want to talk about your little gizmo thing that you picked up here?
Yeah. So I was going through one of those exercises where I'm like going through bookmarks on my in Chrome, and I'm like, what are these? Why do I have that? And just cleaning them out. And I came across this one bookmark for this company called Frio, and I'm like, what? Who are these guys? And I clicked on them, and I remembered that I think David Hobby over at Strobus had done it or mentioned them several months back, and so I revisited them, and I ended up picking a couple up of these things that they make, this thing called Frio, and I got one here. And what this is a little cold shoe mount. So if you have like a speedlight flash or some sort of hot shoe flash, and you want to get it off camera, you've usually got to kind of work through in your head, how am I going to mount that or stick it somewhere? And Frio has this product. It's a little piece of plastic, and what you do is you just slide your flash into it, and you can kind of see a little bit there. There's like a little indentation that kind of locks it in. And then at the bottom of it, down here, they have a little standard thread mount so that you can mount it on a stand or mount it on some sort of like one of those little Gorilla Pod arms or something like that. Basically, put it wherever you want it. And the reason you want a cold shoe, what this would be called as a cold shoe flash, is that it's made of plastic. So that it doesn't short out. So if this base was made of metal or something, you might run into an issue where the flash kind of shorts itself out, basically breaks because you're trying to mount it. So you check these out. I think I paid maybe $15 or $16 for them each, and they just put them in an envelope and mailed them to me. I got it from B&H, and I picked up two just to try it out and see how they work. Dustin, what do you do like when you're doing? Because I know I've seen videos of you doing off-camera lighting with hot shoe flashes. How are you doing those?
A lot of times, what I'm doing is a Canon. The Canon flashes that I use, the 580 EX2s, actually come with a little something that's similar, but it's actually shaped like kind of like a horseshoe, like this, where the screw mount and the shoe mount are at the bottom down here, and the threads are on the bottom and then on the top. So it sits like this and screws onto the light stand, and then you just stick your flash on top there. The other cool thing that I liked about it was the fact that if you didn't have it threaded onto a light stand, then it could sit on like a tabletop or something like that if you didn't have light stands to use. So I kind of liked the versatility of that, but I'm almost always using ETTL off-camera flash during senior portraits, during weddings, things like that. So having something that allows you to attach a flash to a light stand it's something I use every day.
So do you have, since you mentioned like using ETTL, that's all line of sight. Have you had issues with that, not being able to talk or connect?
Yeah, I mean, there are some limitations. I've noticed that a lot of times if you're outdoors, it's a little bit harder for them to communicate with each other. The nice thing is if you don't need your light source to be more than 30 feet away from your subject, then it works pretty well. The other nice thing is if you're using a 580 EX2 as a slave, and then you're using another one as the master flash on the camera, then you can turn the pivot head to point the flash head towards the slave flash, so that way it will pick up the signal. However, it is line of sight, so if you want to do more creative lighting setups that might require your light sources to be either behind your subject or way off camera or something else, then you're probably going to have to go with Pocket Wizards.
Yeah, I've been a Pocket Wizard fan for a while, even on just on 580s, because they have like little tricks you can do to kind of I think it's called relay mode or something like that, where you can use one to trigger another and kind of just hold a Pocket Wizard and trip your flash and your camera at the same time, which is kind of a cool little trick.
Yeah.
Cool. Kind of similar to group. I think it's called groupings on the Pocket Wizards, isn't it?
I don't remember. It's if it might be called that. I mean, they have like different channels, but then there's some sort of relay mode, something that takes the next channel or something like that. And if you got it set up and got enough Pocket Wizards, you can kind of trip them remotely by just using one of them. And to be honest, I kind of like them, like the older ones, more than the newer ones. The newer ones I have, but they've just been kind of unreliable, and the old ones have just been taking a beating, throwing them around, and they keep up. So happy with those. Let's see. One other story I wanted to mention was that I'm sure most of us here probably use Photoshop or some version of it, but there's a company out there called Pixelmator, Pixelmator.com. They are a Mac-only product, but they give you about 70-80% of what Photoshop does for $30. And they just came out with version 2 of their software package. I would say within the last week or two was when that announcement was made. So if you go to pixelmator.com, you can kind of see what they do, and they flat out say at the bottom, these are the things we do. One of them is surprisingly content-aware fill. I would not expect to see content-aware fill in
Are you serious?
in a $30 package. But
oh man,
they offer that, so I'd check that out. In fact, I might be checking it out. If nothing else, just for the situations where if you have like a desktop and a laptop and you want to mess around with something else on another machine or something like that, and you're kind of being held by Adobe's licensing, which is like 2 licenses at any time in use. This just gives you another toy to play with and see how that works. So that's pixelmator.com, Pixelmator.com. Look at that. They even support like versions, which is that whole new OS X Lion thing. Photoshop doesn't even do that yet. That's cool. So anyways, those are the 2 news stories. Did you guys, anyone else, come across anything they thought was interesting they want to share?
The big convention going on right now up in New York.
I totally forgot about that. PhotoPlus is going on right now in New York. I'm very jealous because I've got some friends that are there, and I keep saying I'm going to go there, and then I end up going to other stuff earlier in the year, and I'm like, well, I won't go to that till next year. And then October comes around, I was like, oh man, I really want to go. So definitely next year. Has anyone been here before? Been there before to PhotoPlus?
Nope. Can't say that I have.
It's kind of like the big East Coast, one of the big East Coast conferences. WPPI is a big one out in Vegas, and that's the one I've been going to. Dustin's been going to that one, but yeah, I do want to check out PhotoPlus, especially now since they've got the Canon booth there has the 1DX for people to play with. I saw
So you
Brian.
already have that already?
Well, Brian, is it Matthias, Dustin, or Matthias?
I just call him Brian.
Brian. Yeah, Brian's pretty active guy on Google Plus, and he put a Twitter photo up of playing with one over the last couple days in the booth there. So they've got him there for you to see, at least. So maybe he'll do a review. That would be kind of cool.
I'm sure somebody will.
Somebody will do a review soon. Because I've heard like the people that do get to play with it, they don't let you put your own compact flash cards in there. You have to use theirs. They don't want you walking away with any images.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going to buy one if they're not going to let me stick my memory card.
Well, yeah, right. For now, at least. I'm sure probably the beginning of next year they'll be a little bit more bold, but
it's okay. Canon's already sending me one, so.
Oh, are they really?
I'm teasing.
Cool.
No, I'm joking.
Oh, oh man.
Canon, if you're listening, I'd love it if you guys want to send me one. For
yeah, we would be happy to review one for you. Yes.
Right here on Photog TV. We'll even go wireless on our iPhones and do a live demo, in the studio or outside or any kind of situation you want to throw at us.
We'd be very happy to. That would be great.
Mm.
Man. Yeah, well, they have, if you're a member of CPS, the professional services thing, they have a loaner program. I don't know what the waiting list would be like for a 1DX, or even if they even will be offering it anytime soon. But there is that loaner option down the road.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, I had some news, and but not like new products and stuff. I've been growing my senior portrait business, and we have packages where I'll shoot the senior portrait session, but also we have less expensive sessions where one of my associates will go and meet with the high school senior and take their pictures. Well, last Sunday, I think this past Sunday, my associate went to go shoot a session, and she actually dropped, or no, she didn't drop it. She slipped. They were at a garden nursery or wherever, like a park, and there was this little stream, and she thought it'd be really cool to get a shot while straddling the stream with the high school senior standing in the middle of the stream, and didn't take into consideration the moss on the rocks. So she lost her footing, and she basically went down on all fours in this shallow stream, and she didn't submerge the camera, but it got splashed pretty bad. And this was an original 5D. Yeah.
Ow.
And so I actually took it up to a local camera store here, Precision Camera, to have them take a look at it. And so they are shipping it to Canon right now. But it was one of those things where it continued to work throughout the rest of the session, but then the next day she called me up and said that it was having issues starting up. It was saying something like error 1, which if you Google it, it says error 1 is a lens connection problem or something like that.
There's error 1, there is water on the sensor.
There is water in the camera. Error 1. That's probably the biggest error you can make with a camera. So we'll see how it goes. If Canon's got a loaner program, though, I'll just call them up and say, hey, you guys have my original 5D. Can you send me the 1DX so I can use it?
Yeah, that's
Well, I'm waiting on you guys to fix my original 5D.
Sure, they haven't heard that yet. Yeah, actually, we do have one.
It's like, oh, wait, jeez, I got a power shot around here somewhere. Here, let me send that to Canon.
Hey, I see my good friend Christian Sangri has jumped in. Christian is a great, awesome wedding photographer based out of Oklahoma. Hey, Christian, how's it going?
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. This is the first time here. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, we've just been...
It is. It's actually my first hangout.
Oh, is it really?
What is the deal? We get a lot of hangout virgins
cool.
in here.
Yeah, what is that? Wow. I think people feel comfortable. Like, well, if I'm going to have to talk to other people, it might as well be photographer.
Other shut-ins.
Yes.
Right.
All of us introverted types hang out together. All right, what's that?
I'm sorry, I was going to ask. You said Oklahoma. What's the name of that restaurant that your in-laws own in OKC?
Oh, it's Nona's.
Nona's. Oh, man. I just got to do a quick shout-out for Nona's. Anybody watching this later on YouTube or on our website, if you happen to be in Oklahoma City, go to Nona's. It's down by the baseball fields. Is that right?
It's in Bricktown. It's kind of just downtown.
Yeah, I mean,
OKC.
Amazing Italian food. Just incredible stuff. And I should know. I spent a summer over there eating like home-cooked stuff in Italy. So when I went to Nona's, it was like I had the gnocchi, and it was just absolutely incredible. So if you're in the area, eat at Nona's. You'll love it.
This episode of Photog TV brought to you by Nona's Restaurant.
Can they send us food?
That's what we need. We need a sponsorship. We'll take a restaurant. We'll go with that.
Hey, if Carnegie Deli can ship cheesecakes, Nona can send us gnocchi.
I'll send out an email, see if we can get that to happen. Get some gnocchi every Thursday.
Reheating instructions. Throw in the oven, 350 for 20 minutes.
That'd be awesome. All right, well, we went through some news here, so I wanted to jump into the main topic today, which was I was going to, and it's a little bit of a background on this. What Dustin and I did before we started this show was we did a test recorded hangout, and I basically took, there's an image on my Google Plus page that has like Spider-Man on the side of a building, and we took that and I kind of broke that down, and we, as far as like the Hangout went, I discussed that image and we recorded that as a test to see if we could actually record it, and that was the way everything started. So I thought again today we would do that, this time with a different image, and I was going to kind of explain how I went through the whole process and the steps in Photoshop that we did and whatnot. And let's see, I'm going to flip over to this option to share my screen. It should pop up here. So I'll pop over to preview. And so this is the image that I was going to talk about. So this image I called Baby and the Tramp. I took it just 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago. And like I'm sure most of you guys, when if you have kids, they become like your subjects for a bunch of different little projects. And so that became the case with my boys. This is Trevor on the left and Brandon on the right. And I did this while we were building this trampoline in the backyard, and it was in this kind of in-between mode where we had this part up of the frame, but now you have netting and all that kind of extra padding all around. And so before we put that up, I said, let's do this shoot. And it's kind of funny because when I was growing up, this is what this is what a trampoline looked like. There was no big net or anything like that. You were bouncing around, and if you ended up going over the fence, then that was your tough luck. But now we got all sorts of extra padding. So so this is the shot, the final shot, and I'm going to go through a little bit here to show you some images of how I did it. So this was done in the middle of the day, basically, right about noon. And, I mean, if you look at those shadows, it's like practically right underneath the trampoline. And I had just gotten in all this Paul Buff lighting stuff. So I used their Einstein line of lights, which has a couple power packs, a couple heads, and the packs will go up to like 2,400 watt seconds. And so it's really good if you want to do what I'm doing here, which is knocking down the sun, kind of killing all the ambient light around, and just having the strobe action kind of light your subject. So when I did this shot, I was trying to think, how do I want to light this? And there are 4 lights in this. There is an overhead little octobox right there, and then on the left and the right you can see another light. It's kind of like a hard edge light. And then what you can't see in this picture, but it's underneath the trampoline, there's a light to light the fence back there. So 4 lights total. I wasn't looking at in terms of like measuring it with ratios or anything like that. It was really just how do the lights work all together. And the way I do these kind of shoots is I tend to expose what I would say expose for the ambient first. So I turn off all the lights, I take a shot and say, okay, how does this look in terms of without any other lights? Is it dark the way I want it to be? And once I get that background looking the way I want to, then I start adding lights in. Okay, so the first thing I did here was that one main light. It's one overhead light, sandbagged on a stand, and I did a couple test shots until that one worked out right. And then the edge lights, there's a couple things on those. So usually when I do that kind of a setup, it's roughly about 45 degrees back to either side. Here I have what are called flags, those little black kind of square things that you see in front of the light. And those are there to keep the flash from flaring or bouncing right back into the camera. Because when you point a flash back towards the camera like that, you can see flare in sometimes if you don't have it blocked off. So I'm blocking it off from the camera, but it's still going to hit the subject. And sometimes people like flare. I mean, it's really just a preference of when you're shooting, whether you want it or not. This time I didn't want it, so I threw those flags up there. And that's pretty much the whole kind of lighting setup. So 4 lights, it's 5D. It's either 5D or 5D Mark II on a tripod back there. On the bottom, you see the little orange bags. Those are the batteries. So 2 power packs for 4 lights. So I think I probably had the edge lights running off of 1 pack, and the main light and the fence light running off of another one. Here is another shot. So, okay, so how do we do this? So this gets to the thing I mentioned earlier about, or when I was talking about this on Google Plus, about the two questions I always get about this image. And I always laugh because the questions will kind of tell me what your thought process is, depending on which one you ask. You'll either ask, or people will either ask, hey, how did you do that? And that's a great question. I love to answer that question. Or I'll hear, did his head hurt when he hit the trampoline? And when I hear that, then I know that they're not quite thinking about like the process so much as, you know, they just assume that that's how it happened. So the way I shot this was, this is my son Brandon, and in this shot you can actually see down here in the bottom, you can see that other light just pointed up towards the fence. But we just had him jump in the air a bunch of times and until we got a shot of just him with the trampoline. And what I was telling him to do was just jump in the air, and I would wait until he was at the top, I think that's called the apex or whatever, the top of his jump to take the picture. And the reason I waited until he was at the top was because that's when there was the littlest amount of movement. I mean, he was almost relatively stationary for that little split second. And so we went through that exercise a couple times until we got him. And by leaving the camera on the tripod, I can then add Trevor, the younger child, in, and everything will be mostly still kind of lined up. And the way I did that was this way. I basically walked in onto the trampoline and held him the best I could and took another shot with him. So what this is giving me is he is getting hit by the same lighting setup that I already have. I don't have to go set that light up somewhere else in a studio or in a bedroom or whatever. I can just keep everything there and shoot him there on the location. Now, I am blocking that left edge light with my body, basically, and I guess if I did it again, I would probably stand behind him more than off to the side, but he was being hardly cooperative at all that day. In fact, we tried several different variations. I actually tried holding him by his legs, like upside down, to see if that would work, and he didn't like that, so eventually, okay, I'm just going to hold him this way and then do the rest of it in post. So that's the basic of the setup. So I'm going to jump over here to the Photoshop side, and here we have the shot of Brandon by himself. What you can see here is you got that one big light coming in on him here. You've got that light underneath the trampoline hitting the fence back there, and he's got a little bit of edge light action going. I mean, looking at it, it didn't add too much. I think I would have liked to have had more of what we're seeing, like right here with this kind of edge light action. I'd like to see that more happening on the left side over there, and it didn't. And that could have been for a couple reasons. It could have been a power issue. It could have been a distance or an angle or whatever. But it did light the side of him, so I was so happy with that. So this was like my baseline image. I started from here with just him on there, and I first started going through and cleaning up things. So down on the trampoline, there was some grass and whatnot. So I should have gotten rid of that actually before we did the shoot, but I didn't. So I just kind of cloned that out. And then on Trevor, well, actually, one other thing first is I did a little bit of blur on him, which I don't know if that's coming through or not. I added just a little bit of blur, vertical blur, to kind of sell the idea that he was jumping in the air. On Trevor, we're going to start with him right here. So he required the most work, and the reason he did was because I was holding him, and I had to get rid of all that. So what you can see here he is, and you can see all this kind of cut out stuff where I've actually gone ahead and cut out all the places that I was holding him. And I had to basically rebuild that. So you can see like there's the arm getting rebuilt. I'm basically just cloning from different areas and painting in and rebuilding them that way. And I hear some mowers outside. I hope that's not coming across too loud. But I'm just going to go step by step. And again, I just have to sell the image a little bit. I'm kind of zoomed in a lot, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But I basically go through the steps there of drawing him back in. Somebody, oh, they don't hear the mowers at all? Okay, good. I went through all the steps of kind of drawing him back in. And I don't see another way actually I could have done it, other than like rigging him up with some sort of cable system or something, which I don't even know if they make those for a 2-year-old when we took this. So there he is. The next thing I looked at was I need to get a shadow for him down here. So it's kind of odd because I would have expected this shadow to not show up as much because there's no direct light over Brandon in this case, except for the sun, and that's what casted that. The other lights didn't seem to cast a shadow. So, I mean, I looked at this shadow and I was like, well, it's just kind of funky. I mean, there's like a little line over here for an arm, and you can kind of make some pieces out, but it's an overhead casted shadow. So I basically just took a brush and drew something similar for Trevor over here. Just had to fake it. Didn't have to look close at all because it's impossible to know what that would look like. So there we got Trevor in there. Now that's how he looked after I held him and did the Photoshop work. What I ended up doing was rotating him some more. Turn off this other one. So I took all that work I did, flattened it down to a new layer, and rotated it. And that I thought was a little bit better. I wanted him a little bit more upside down. It's almost funny though because when he's rotated, this foot, his left foot, actually kind of matches a little bit better now because there is a big light off there to the side, and so like Brandon's arm's getting hit over here, and now his foot's getting hit on the left side. It actually kind of worked a little bit more. So I rotated him around. I added just a little bit of blur down there, the same that I did with Brandon. And that was pretty much it. Now I'm going to flip back to... So I've done all this work without cropping it. The reason why there was a crop and that the camera angle was off in the first place is this trampoline is actually slightly on a hill. And so I had to, after the fact, straighten things up. Let me flip back here. Okay. So here's the final version. So what the differences between this and what I just showed you. Two things. One, there's some darkening and burning kind of going on around the whole edge here. The other is that I used a plugin called LucisArt, which is L-U-C-I-S-A-R-T. And I'm going to flip back to... Actually, I can't chat at the same time I'm sharing this. It's L-U-C-I-S-A-R-T is the company. They make this plugin that will hype up the contrast or enhance local contrast is what they might call it. It works really good. The only thing is they don't make it anymore for the Mac. So you have to use like an older version, or you have to use something called, what I use now is Silver Effects Pro, which is by Nik Software. It's actually a black and white plugin, and it lets you do something similar. And I've got a video. If you go back in my feed on Google+, you'll probably find it. I need to maybe repost it, but I did a little sample video showing how I do this with that plugin. It's basically just running one of their presets, which kind of enhances the image. It turns it into a black and white because that's what the plugin does. But then I take that new layer with that enhancement and I say use the contrast information from this layer to make the color layer pop some more. So that's pretty much it. It was maybe an hour or so of shooting. We made sure to have people on the sides when we were taking the picture, but other than that, it was pretty straightforward. So you guys have any questions or anything I missed, or that you want me to go over a little bit more detail?
Well, I think Todd had a question earlier about the Einstein lights. You know, he was asking, what, if you liked them, what your experience was with them.
Yeah, so the deal with the Einstein lights is the biggest. They gave you two big things. They give you power, and they give you affordability. So if I wanted the same power to do this sort of shot in ProPhoto gear, I'd probably dump $10,000 to $20,000 to get that same kind of, or have to rent it. So the plus is that yes, you get this incredible amount of power. The minus is that it's kind of plasticky. I mean, it breaks. In fact, this light, the big overhead light, broke on this shoot. The wind caught it, and the whole thing kind of flipped over and snapped the back of that light right there. Now, the whole kind of the company surrounding it, Paul Buff's company, is really great. I called them like, I just broke this light, and I think I had it for like a couple weeks, and they're like, oh, no problem, send it in, we'll fix it, and they fixed it and didn't charge me anything for it. So I love them as far as like a customer service standpoint. They are excellent. As far as a build quality, they're okay. They're Einsteins, or they're this is the Zeus. Did I say Einstein? This is the Zeus lights. They're Einsteins are the ones that just came out. Those have a better build quality. They have a better color temperature, and that's another issue with these Zeus lights is the color temperature can be all over the place. If you're at very low power, it can be one thing, and then as you get higher in power, the more accurate it becomes. So when I'm doing these kind of crazy shoots, it's actually pretty good. If I'm going to do something in the garage at a low setting, then it can be all over the place, and two lights can be off. One can be a little bit warmer, or one can be a little bit cooler. So I'm back here on my window. Christian's asking, how long did the post take on this? I probably spent maybe 2 hours or so, I'm guessing. I've gone back every now and then and kind of tweaked little things. Like I took out the blur a little bit for a while and did some other stuff. But I would say 1 to 2 hours is probably a good guess of what it was. And that was kind of, for me, that was one of my favorite images in terms of like defining my style. I like to do lights outside, throw some humor in, and this was kind of a little bit of all that.
And who do you say is the manufacturer for the lights?
Yeah, I'm going to throw it over here. It's Paul Buff, and the URL is, I think it's paulcbuff.com. Their entry-level stuff is the Alien Bees line, and then you have White Lightning, and then you have Zeus, and then their Einstein is kind of like their new thing. Not a big power light, but a very accurate light in terms of color, and very controllable in terms of using power in small little increments. So, I mean, I'm still using those lights. I will rent Profoto stuff on occasion, and there are certain reasons why I would do that. Like, if I'm doing a shoot where I need what's called like a very short flash duration, I need that flash to just happen really quickly because I'm trying to freeze something. These lights are not good for that. The Einstein lights that they make actually are better for it, but the Zeus will not do it. It worked okay as far as him jumping in the air, because I was waiting for him to get to the top, so there wasn't a lot of movement at that point. But I did a shoot one time with a ballerina, and she was kind of jumping left to right, so she was kind of moving across the frame, and I could see a little bit of the effects of having a short flash duration. So the flash fires, and as it's going down, it's not going down quickly, and she's moving, so there's like a little bit of a ghost of her right behind her, very small. But that's the effect of having a light that doesn't have a short duration.
And to ask the question for people who may not know, including myself, I mean, I have some studio lights, but they're monolights, and other people prefer to work with an actual like power packs and strobes that attach to the power packs and things like that. In your experience, do you see a benefit of going with monolights or with some other sort of solution when it comes to strobe lighting?
I like them all. In fact, in this shot, the light that was underneath the trampoline was a monolight. It was a White Lightning 1600. They've all got their pluses and minuses. I mean, you get with the monolights, it's just that unit, but you have to run around and mess with the power. With the packs, you've got one spot you're going to for that power, but you've got to run a cable from that pack to those lights, and if it's anywhere beyond 10 feet or something, you might have to get an extension cable. And when you introduce extension cables, you want them both going to both lights if you're running more than one, so that both lights are getting the same kind of pathway from the power pack to the light. So you could do it with either, to be honest. I mean, I know we had on Doug Saunders a week or two ago, and he does all his stuff with White Lightning 1600s, like straight monolights, and yeah, he has to run around and set them up, but it's much more portable for him when he's traveling to use those than to take packs plus heads.
And actually, another question that I was thinking of the other day: are there any portable power systems that use that are basically like a big battery for like portable lighting? So let's say you want to do something on location, but there's no place to plug your lights into. Have you do you have or have you worked with some kind of portable power system that's like a giant rechargeable battery that you can plug stuff into?
Yeah. So on this shoot, I used two Vagabond 2 batteries. These are the ones that, unfortunately, Paul Buff's announced that they're phasing them out, which kind of makes me sad because they're actually really good batteries. They have a new Vagabond, which is, I think it's called the Vagabond Mini or something, that will do basically the same thing. But the issue regarding battery packs, when you look at these, because you're two ways, well, you got three ways to go. You're going to plug the light in, you're going to use a battery, or you're going to use a generator. I haven't done a generator yet because they are heavy, and you fill them up with gasoline or whatever. It's like almost someone there needs to be in charge of running that thing, or at least helping to get it set up. And I just haven't gotten to that point yet where I want to have somebody just to haul the generator.
You mean you haven't convinced your wife that's what her job's going to be on the next shoot?
Lisa, we're going to go out today and have fun this weekend. Here, put these gloves on, and don't mind that smell of fuel in the car. It's fine.
Just roll down the window.
Just roll down the window. Just don't breathe the fumes. Yeah, you could use a generator, but on the battery side, as far as Paul's stuff goes, the Vagabond 2 is my favorite. The Vagabond Mini has some pluses to it. It's smaller, it's cheaper, it's more portable. The difference between the two is the time it takes for those to recycle. So it's like, I don't know if it's a circuit issue or just the amount of juice or whatnot, but if you're running a light at full power, like I kind of was on this one, I was shooting at like f18 or something. I want that light to recycle as quickly, be ready to go as soon as possible. And I remember looking in the specs of the Mini and saying, oh, it doesn't even match up to the Vagabond 2. So it's a portability thing that you're getting, but it's not a power thing. I mean, it's not you're not getting a matching recycle time. And I'm looking over here, and Scott's saying it's about amperage. So maybe that's what it is. I do want to use them because I think there's a place for them. It just wouldn't have worked as well on this as the larger packs. If you're in the pro photo land, they have something called a bat pack, which I've heard is really well made, but I haven't used one of those. Yeah, I would like to try that Mini. Maybe somebody can convince Paul Buff to still make the Vagabond 2s. And it's one of those situations where they are kind of user serviceable from the perspective of you can take them out and change out the battery. I've had to do that once already just because the batteries do die over time. So I suspect I'll be able to keep using them because if the battery goes, I can go to Batteries Plus or whatever and probably find a matching battery.
I actually, my first set of lights were, oh gosh, it's a really, really cheap strobes, monolights that you can buy. I think it's like Pro Studio or something like that. And you could actually get an adapter to where you could plug in the Q Flash battery packs. Remember, photographers use them to tie into their SLR flashes. And so I could actually use that with my studio strobe off camera and go wireless. The problem is, if you want to go full power with a flash that's 120 watt seconds or something like that, it's not that powerful, then you're going to burn through that battery pretty quickly. So but I know that a lot of people, especially right now, they really want to go for that flash brighter than the sun kind of effect. And even the most powerful 580EX2s are just not quite there when it comes to being able to pull off that shot and doing it multiple times before you just kill the battery. So
No, there was a post that was pretty popular last year where some guy had built like a big wooden frame out of like a square, and inside he had put, I don't know, 16, 20 different 580s, and he just strung them all around, and it did the work. It was like it actually worked as far as like giving him this incredible f-stop and knocking the sun down. But when you see the picture of it being used, it's like 5 feet away from the subject. I mean, it's like really close on the subject, and it's like, okay, well that's great, but you can't necessarily take that whole rig and be 10 feet away and get that same effect. Pixel Pack. I haven't heard of Pixel Pack. Spare battery fits. Yeah, it's totally a weight and portability thing. So wedding photographers, they don't need 1,200 watt seconds for indoor
Scott's holding up the box there. Pixel Pack.
Oh, look at that.
Flashgun Power Pack. Nice. I remember when I used to work in sales at a camera store, when the Q Battery Mini came out. It's about probably about the size of a calculator, maybe about twice as thick. It was heavy because it was dense, but those things lasted for a pretty long period of time. I think the problem is most people, if they're using some sort of battery attachment to their flash, they kind of get used to the weight. So I was using that also to kind of hold down my flashes in case the wind picked up, and then I started using that mini one, and all my stuff started falling over.
Yeah. That's true. The Vagabonds do make the Vagabond 2, it's heavy enough that I can hook it around the light stand and have it serve as a weight for sure.
Yeah, my shoot-through umbrellas definitely show a lot of abuse. So.
Yeah. If you don't have at least one incident where things are flying over or falling over, you're not doing it right.
Push your limits, folks.
That's right. Break equipment. Cool. All right. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions on anything?
All right.
Oh, quiet. Cool.
Well, like I said, today, for anybody who's watching this later, everybody's at Photo Plus right now, so you guys are getting an in-depth exclusive treat with the breakdown of Eric's image today. So, Eric, thank you for doing this live demonstration for us today.
Sure, happy to do it.
And again, you're watching Photog TV. We do this every Thursday at noon Central Standard Time on Google Hangouts. We always record the sessions and then put them on our website, which is just photog.tv for you guys to watch. So make sure you tune in next time, and who knows what we'll talk about next.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. We'll have this episode up by tomorrow for those that missed it.
All right. Thanks a lot,
everybody
guys.
that participated today, thank you very much for attending, as well as showing us your gear, Scott, and also providing us with your questions. We really appreciate it, and we love having repeat customers too.
I know one of these days we're going to have like a reunion party in the coffee shop where Ernesto is.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking about.
This is a great place to hang out.
And some coffee and just veg out for a couple hours.
That'd be cool.
Well, this is a great place.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.